Good morning. Welcome to episode 76 of the Driller Newscast, a weekly update on the news and stories impacting the drilling and water industry. I'm your host, Brock Yordy, and this week we're going to talk about Construction Suicide Prevention Week, which just wrapped up. And yesterday was September 10th, World Suicide Prevention Awareness Day, which leads into, for the United States, Suicide Prevention Month. For our feature, we're going to talk about professional presence and what the numbers in our industry look like. And these two things go hand in hand, from professional awareness of our entire job site and our people to where are our people and how they're being impacted. So let's dive into it. Professional awareness and professional presence are hand in hand. And you know the dangers that come from working on a job site. We think about our near misses and our close calls, unsafe acts, unsafe conditions, and the fact that 80% of everything that we do that ends up being a near miss or an injury is an unsafe act. And only 20% do we get into those hazardous conditions. And that's very important for us to think about. And so, with last week wrapping up Construction Suicide Awareness and Prevention Week, we need to continue this discussion. So, as we sit down and we have those toolbox talks and we discuss what is going to happen on this job site, what are our possibilities? How often do we talk about mental health or suicide, which for the construction industry is one of our best kept secrets, and it's killing us, literally. In the general population, suicide occurs in 27 out of every 100,000 people. However, in construction, the number is closer to 53 suicides per 100,000 workers. There is 7.9 million Americans working in construction right now. I want you to think about that. In the US, there are approximately 123 suicides per day, which breaks down to a staggering one death every 12 minutes. That comes from the Safe Build Alliance statistic numbers. We need to know how to make sure our people get help and how we get help. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline is 1-800-273-8255 or 1-800-273-TALK. As of July 2022, you can also text or chat to 988 to reach the Lifeline's trained counselors directly. That's, again, just dial 988, text 988. So the big deal, we've talked about it, is very important. And I can say, as we ended August 2021, August, coming home from the South Atlantic Jubilee, I found out my father had COVID Delta. And because I was vaccinated, I got to spend the 30 days with him in the hospital, on the regular floor and the ICU and all the PPE, and talking to him and laughing and reminiscing and crying and helping him breathe. And so for me, August now, for 2 years in a row, because he's been gone since August 27th, 2021, it's a pretty dark place. And I just bit my lower lip and I buried it and I went back to work. And it was a terrible place to be. And I didn't ask for the right help. So with that said, we have plenty of places. We have the Lifeline, we have 988. We also have, you can go to the Construction Suicide Prevention website, where there are webinars, resources, and materials that will help us. Assistant Secretary of OSHA, Doug Parker, released a great 5-minute discussion on YouTube that you should all go watch. Watch it as a tailgate. I've shared it to my LinkedIn. Because this is how it is. When you're struggling with your mental health, you might find yourself resorting to the old school mindset of keeping a stiff upper lip and fighting through it on your own. We just bury it. We just work harder. It's not healthy. It's not healthy for us to use a substance abuse or any situation, overeating, drinking, to try to deal with this. And this is why it's contributing to a high number of construction workers who are dying by suicide. In 2020, nearly 1 in 5 adults in the United States were living with a mental illness. I want you to think about, from the global pandemic to the opiates crisis to us coming out of the construction economic decline that we saw 60% of our workforce leave. This is all impacting us. Among US adults, more than 12.5 million people had serious thoughts of suicide. And then along with that, substance abuse counts too. One in 15 struggle with both substance abuse and mental illness. If you're finding yourself struggling, know this: you are not alone. Your mental illness is not your fault, nor is it anything to be ashamed of. And I know we like to be the industry that smashes our thumb and it's turning black and blue and it's bleeding and we say it's nothing. And, you know, we bury things. This is not one that we need to be burying, nor should we any sort of injury. There are ways you can help reduce the stigma around mental illness and possibly help our industry take a turn for the better when it comes to saving lives. It starts by asking for help. If you struggle, talk to your doctor about treatment options that might work for you. If you don't have a doctor yet, reach out to your coworkers, reach out to your family, your friends. There are plenty of people that care about you. Talk therapy and medications are just two possibilities. But that comes back to us as an industry having job site awareness that goes into social and emotional awareness. The same as the awareness we need for a stop work authority for when a bad situation can happen, a catastrophic event. Suicide is a catastrophic event that we can prevent. We need to avoid self-blame. Your mental illness is not a weakness. We have to start educating our teams about these particular illnesses. And that's how we end up reaching out and talking with doctors that can help us realize that they're not alone. You're not alone. And it comes down to this: no matter how isolated you may feel, there are people out there that care about you. You have those in your life whom you love and trust, and they love you and trust you. I know this is a hard discussion for us to have, and we've been having plenty of hard discussions with what's going on, but 53 out of 100,000 individuals taking their lives. We can do better, industry. We can't keep this in the dark. If you know somebody's struggling or you're struggling, we need to seek professional attention. Dial 988, text 988. Talking with others can help you feel better and less alone. You need the support system, and we're here to help you. You can reach out to me directly. I'm happy to have a discussion with you. We can find you the right help. You just need to know that it's okay to make the call. and what can be done. So, colleagues, bosses, foremen, friends, family, what should we be looking for? We talked about this last year, but it's just as pertinent this year. No different than when we're watching for those unsafe acts or we have each other's backs. It starts with the verbal warning signs, talking about being a burden or the world would be better off without them, expressing the desire to no longer exist or die. Then we get thinking about the emotional warning signs. When our teammates no longer find joy or pleasure in the things that they once enjoyed. They have emotional outbursts from anger, sadness, anxiety, laughter, erratic behavior. It's a cry. And these things can happen frequently without warning. Sudden joy or excitement after prolonged periods of depression. That's a big warning sign. We need to be looking at those behavioral change warning signs, frequent mood swings, giving away their belongings, sleeping all the time, or changes in eating habits. I want you to think about that. We have a dependable employee and suddenly they're late. Suddenly they no longer have that bump in their step on the side that we all came to enjoy. What is happening here? What is happening here? We need to know when it's time to make that call. If you or someone you care for is at a really low point, help is always available. And again, that's calling, texting, or chatting with the 988 number, or reach out to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline, who have plenty of trained counselors that will help you get what you need. September 10th, the world just took a moment to stop yesterday and think about this. But this is something that we should be doing 12 months a year, 365, understanding that morale. I always ask these questions to my teams, my friends, my family, my colleagues. Do you like your job? Let's just connect. What's going good today? Do you feel safe? And if anything we can get from this, from an industry, we really need to be discussing, do you feel safe on the job site? Do you feel safe at home? Do you feel safe financially? Do you feel safe emotionally? What is going on? How can we help? And then I follow it up with, what do you want to do next? And that can be professionally, personally, after work. What is driving them? What is driving you? What does that super objective look like? And then finally, how can I help you get there? It's all it takes, connecting, hearing how those changes and responses happen. And we have seasonal depression disorder as we get into the next few months and daylight savings happens and it's darker and we have less sunshine. There are plenty of things that affect us. New medicines that, as we become older or unhealthy and we get prescribed things, can interact. There's plenty of things that change people that we just don't realize. We can't chalk it up to they're just having a bad day. And if you believe it's just a bad day, we need to be watching and we still need to be reaching out. Let's go out and be smart and emotionally aware, just the same as we should be safety aware on all levels. Like I said, we're going to talk about professional awareness and professional presence this week. And I think a big piece that our industry needs to realize is that the construction employment field is not that big. We are a very important piece of our industry, and we've talked about this before, but we really need to be thinking about how the numbers all fall out. And so let's cover 2023 Bureau of Labor Statistics employment numbers and how we fare as a construction industry. I haven't even dived into drilling or special capabilities in drilling yet. And that's where that professional awareness and professional presence meet, and how we as an industry need to represent ourselves better. And it doesn't look good when it's 53 individuals out of 100,000 take their lives in the construction industry. We have to become smarter, more empathetic individuals in the field, in the office, in the workforce in general. So what does our employment field look like right now? It's about 162 million Americans that go out every day and work as they're employed. There are 5,247,000 Americans actively seeking employment right now, with an unemployment rate of 3.5%. Did you know there's 9 million plus job openings right now? And as we look at those unemployment numbers, it's about 5.6 million unemployed. The average salary in our country right now from an hourly wage is $27 to $28 an hour. I want you to think about that as we're putting those help wanted signs, going to Indeed, posting that we're hiring. What is that field laborer starting at, that field technician, that driller assistant, that driller? What is their value? The average annual salary is about $60,000. So let's drill into the actual construction employment field. We said there's about 162 million people working every day in the United States. How does that break down for us? In construction, 7.9 million employees. The last time we had this discussion, it was 7.6. So we're up 300,000. And we see with the green jobs and everything that's happening, we have great opportunities right now to expand this industry more. But how are we representing it? So there's 750,000 employers out there. And that 7.9 million employees generates $1.5 trillion worth of business annually. Think about the Inflation Reduction Act, the federal infrastructure law, everything that we have going on. Of that 7.9 million, 20% are overhead. Not really. Their operations and their HR and their financials, but it does say that they are 20% is some sort of management level. In 2022, we lost 1.5 million workers that did not come back. The average age in construction right now, 1 in 5 is 55 years or older. In drilling, 1 in 4 is over the age of 58. What does that mean? That means by 2030, 45% of our entire tribal knowledge individuals that have been helping us do are going to be gone. We haven't fared any better in that 300,000 individuals that we increased. We're still 94% male workforce and 6% female. 25% of the workforce are foreign-born U.S. citizens. Yes, that's right. They have become citizens, but they did not start here in this country. Highest paid construction jobs, same as last year. Electricians, plumbers, pipe fitters, and carpenters. Why? There's trade schools. There's standard operating procedures. There's plenty there that doesn't have to be tribal learned as we do in the drilling industry. Here's the big piece that's changed from last year to this year. Bureau of Labor Statistics is now looking at how reliable hours of operation are that are now impacted by climate change. We just saw with Burning Man half inch of rain shut down that entire festival over Labor Day weekend. We can drive into any rural area outside of a bigger city, and what do we see? We see these massive facilities that make it so that we can get a package delivered to us within a day after we order it online. And that's starting to take our workforce. Why? Because they can start at $27 an hour, and it doesn't matter if we have extreme heat or flooding. They're in climate controlled conditions, and they will make their 40 hours a week. I want you to think about that now farm workers and construction workers and all that work outdoors are now impacted by extreme weather, from us needing to shut down because we're using the NIOSH OSHA heat index app, to severe weather, to all the aspects there. And median construction pay for a field laborer is still $22 an hour. There's plenty of fast food places we can work at right now that work today, get paid today, have days off. Some have Sundays off. We have to become more of a desirable industry. And that's where our professional presence and our professional awareness is very important. So I want to talk specifically construction workforce and drilling. There's 1.2 million of that 7.9 million workers that operate in an industry that requires drilling. Truly, we should all believe that every construction job starts with a drilling aspect, and that all of them have touched it. We know that without our geotechnical investigation, our environmental investigation, water, geothermal, cathodic protection, caissons, micropiles, we don't get things done. However, when we jump into what the Bureau of Labor Statistics calls the construction and extraction occupations, it's about 473,000 Americans. And then if we break down those numbers, 118,000 work in oil and gas, 187,000 work in mining, and 257,000 work in operating engineers that have something to do with a derrick, a crane. That's where we get into our drilling aspects. Now, I want you to understand that the oil and gas industry employs 900,000. They're just not all in construction drilling. And the mining industry employs 573,000, but not all of them are wireline coring and exploration. So when we look at these numbers, and we look at that 473,000, roughly 19,000 Americans drill water wells, geothermal, cathodic, geotechnical, environmental, construction drilling. That's right. We're a very small aspect. So only 23 million American homes that have private water wells. We're now seeing reports about groundwater is being depleted at a rapid rate. We saw with the Navajo Nation versus the state of Arizona in the United States, that in the oral arguments, they said, you just need to go to the cheap, abundant resource of groundwater. We don't understand how to steward smart groundwater withdrawal right now. And we see with the NGWA and the ASR wells and groundwater management and everything we have going on, we're working at it. But here's where our awareness and our professional presence come in. What are we doing? What are we doing today to show and drive? A few weeks ago, I was on a job site. Wanted to take some photos for the driller. And I said, hey, can you get your assistant driller some gloves? Tripping rods out into a rod box. Gonna do some other things. The response by the foreman, what? You need gloves to drill in Michigan? No, you need gloves to keep your people safe. You need gloves so that when that incident happens, it doesn't take a finger off, that they can operate safely, moving tools, because it's the proper PPE for us to have. You can go back and watch an Ask Brock with my son, where we watch construction workers in our front yard putting in fiber optics, and they didn't have the right PPE, and it was hot. We have little people across the country right now that want to be influenced to be part of our industry. And I'm talking about the 5-year-olds to 8th grade. They're the ones right now that are making a decision on what they want to be when they grow up. And there's a lot of things on TV that show all of these glorious jobs, from firefighters to doctors to FBI agents to pilots and whatnot. We're not showing where we need to be. And you think it's because mom and dad aren't in the industry. You're absolutely right. 162 million Americans work in a country every day, and 7.9 work in construction. So you don't know what you don't know is what it comes down to, other than when the school bus goes past the job site or you're in their backyard. And this comes back to getting in front of them, touch a truck, awesome aquifer program with NGWA. There's plenty of ways that we need to inspire these individuals, but then we're also going to have to work towards that family sustaining wage, and $22 an hour doesn't cut it. We talk about this being a young individual's game because we want somebody that doesn't have a broken back yet and has no commitment to a major relationship or rocket football games or softball games or 4-H, that we can put on a job site and work 60 hours a week so they can have their sustaining wage, not a family sustaining wage. And then you think about it, because that's when those distribution centers, they're all over the country now, popping up every moment you think about it, from Amazon to Walmart to Target to all these big box branches. That's a easy 40-hour week at a higher wage, 401k and benefits. And that's what it's going to take. And so that's the professional presence that we need to be looking at right now, and our awareness. And it's right back to the beginning of my discussion in safety. Emotional awareness is a piece of this if we want the next generation to be working. We're about to wrap up the third quarter, and we're heading into the fourth. We got a lot to get done. We got a lot of green jobs to fulfill. We got a lot of water wells to drill. Our industry is very precious to us. Just understand, 45% is going to be retired in less than 6.5 years. Go out, be the professional industry we know we can be. Teach everybody they have a purpose in this industry, and there's resources out there. This is what we have to do. Thank you for joining us for episode 76 of the Driller Newscast. Yeah, did we hit some big topics this week? We absolutely did, because there's no better time than the present. And that means having that talk with that individual that just doesn't seem right on the job site, to a stop work authority, to the reason why our team members need to be paid their value, which means we also have to have the right economic climate, the right demand, and the right business in place to be able to pay our people what they're worth, get them the benefits what they're worth, and look at that. And I'll leave you with this. If you wonder why the unions are growing the way they are, again, it's because organization has shown that they're 2 times more likely to hire women into the construction industry right now. And they're 4 times more likely to bring in people of color. And diversity and inclusion is a very big piece. The 21st century workforce that we'll have by 2030 will not look like the workforce we have today. And that means we need standard operating procedures. We need safety. We need emotional awareness. We need professional presence, or we're not going to get there. Go out, have a safe, productive week. Check out thedriller.com. I'll be at the Georgia Groundwater Show end of September, and I'll be at the California Groundwater Show end of October. And then before we blink, it's going to be NGWA and IGSPA in Vegas. Hope to see you all there.